Every single day, 60 new doors are quietly added to the most critical piece of infrastructure in our lives. 60 new potential points of failure. And every single day, unseen forces are rattling the handles, testing the locks, looking for a way in. This isn't a movie plot. This is the silent, invisible war being waged right now against the electrical grid. And the people trying to break in are getting better, faster, and much, much bolder. The numbers are staggering. In just the last year, cyber attacks targeting utility companies have skyrocketed by 70%. That's not a small jump. That's an explosion. We're talking over 1,000 documented attacks in a single year. More than 3 attempts every single day to cripple the systems that power our homes, our hospitals, and our entire economy. And it's not just happening through keyboards and code. Physical attacks. People with guns, tools, and bad intentions are also on a terrifying upward trend. Between 2021 and 2022, these direct assaults on substations and power equipment jumped by 71%. In 2023 alone, there were at least 175 instances of physical attacks, vandalism, or theft at critical grid sites across the United States. So you have this two-front war, a digital onslaught from hackers, often backed by nation-states, and a physical onslaught from saboteurs on the ground. The number of attacks is climbing at a rate that security experts call unprecedented. And yet, the lights are still on. You're watching this video, your fridge is running, your world is functioning. With thousands of attacks happening, how is it possible that we haven't been plunged into a nationwide blackout? The answer is both reassuring and deeply unsettling. And understanding it is the key to seeing the true danger we're facing. Let's go back to April 16th, 2013, to a substation near San Jose, California. In the dead of night, one or more gunmen systematically opened fire on 17 massive electrical transformers. They knew what they were doing. They severed fiber optic cables beforehand to knock out communications and alarms. For nearly 20 minutes, they poured rifle rounds into the delicate cooling fins of the transformers, causing them to leak oil and overheat. The damage was immense, totaling over $15 million. It was a professional, military-style raid on a critical piece of the American power grid. The FBI called it a deliberate act of sabotage. And the result on the power supply? Almost nothing. The grid operators were able to reroute power and prevent any major outages for customers. This is the paradox of the power grid. It's both incredibly vulnerable and surprisingly resilient. The Metcalfe substation attack is a perfect case study. It proves that you can inflict millions of dollars in damage and still fail to take the system down. In fact, between 2020 and 2022, there were nearly 4,500 physical security incidents reported. But a staggering 97% of them resulted in zero disruption of service. So, should we all just relax? Not a chance. This is where it gets dangerous. Believing the grid is invincible because it survived these isolated attacks is like believing a building is fireproof because someone has only ever tried to light the lobby curtains on fire. The real threat isn't a single isolated attack. The real threat is a coordinated one. What happens when attackers hit multiple, carefully chosen targets at the same time? Or, even worse, what happens when a physical attack is just a distraction for the real assault happening in cyberspace? For that, we have to look at Ukraine. In 2015, the world saw for the first time what a truly successful cyber attack on a power grid looks like. Hackers, widely believed to be from a Russian state-sponsored group, took remote control of the systems at 3 different energy distribution companies. They didn't just crash the software, they methodically opened breakers at substations, plunging over 230,000 people into a cold, dark winter night. Then, as a final move, they wiped the systems and destroyed the hard drives, making it incredibly difficult for the Ukrainian engineers to even figure out what had happened, let alone restore power. How did these sophisticated hackers pull it off? Did they exploit some zero-day vulnerability worth millions? No. It all started with an email, a simple spear phishing campaign. They sent emails with malicious attachments to IT workers at the power companies. Someone clicked, and the attackers were in. From that one small foothold, they patiently navigated the internal network for months, mapping the systems, stealing credentials, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They proved it could be done, and just a year later, they did it again. This time, they hit a transmission substation in the capital city of Kiev, causing another blackout. This attack was even more advanced. They used a custom-built piece of malware, now known as Indestroyer or CrashOIs, specifically designed to speak the language of industrial control systems that manage power grids. It's a digital master key, and it's now out there. Think about that for a second. We've gone from theoretical threats to real-world deployment of malware toolkits focused specifically on causing blackouts. And those same groups are active today. A Russian hacker organization known as Grizzly Step was found to have infiltrated the computer system of a Vermont utility company in 2016. Luckily, the malware was on a laptop that wasn't connected to the grid itself, so no damage was done. But they were inside the wire. They were knocking on the door. So why is this happening now? Geopolitical tensions are a huge driver. The conflicts in Ukraine and rising tensions with China have poured gasoline on an already smoldering fire. But there's a deeper, more fundamental problem. The grid itself is changing. Remember those 60 new doors being added to the grid every day? That's not an exaggeration. That's a figure from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, or NERC. As we modernize the grid, adding in smart technologies, renewable energy sources, and more digital controls, the attack surface is expanding at a geometric rate. Every new sensor, every new smart meter, every new internet-connected controller is another potential entry point for an attacker. We're trying to build modern cybersecurity onto a system that in some places is decades old and was never designed to be connected to the internet in the first place. It's a patchwork of old and new, and the complexity is becoming overwhelming. NERC's own CEO has stated that the rate at which software vulnerabilities are being discovered is unprecedentedly high. We are in a hyper-complex risk environment. And here's the kicker. While the vulnerabilities are exploding, the investment in securing them is lagging far behind. The Council on Foreign Relations has warned that the US power system, due to rapid digitization and low investment in cybersecurity, is just as, if not more, vulnerable than systems elsewhere. To put it in perspective, back in 2016, the Department of Energy received only 3 reports of cyber incidents at utilities. In that same period, 41 different weather events caused massive outages. So, where do you think the money and attention went? To hardening the grid against storms, not against hackers. It's an understandable priority, but it has created a critical imbalance. And the potential cost of that imbalance is almost beyond comprehension. A sophisticated cyber attack on the US power grid could cause economic losses approaching $250 billion. Let me say that again, $250 billion. For context, the infamous 2003 Northeast blackout, which was caused by a tree branch hitting a power line and a subsequent software bug, left 50 million people without power and caused economic losses estimated between $4 and $10 billion. What we're talking about is an event 25 times more devastating than that. $250 billion isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's paralyzed supply chains. It's shuttered businesses. It's spoiled food and medicine. It's communications going dark. It's the entire rhythm of modern life grinding to a halt. Researchers have modeled these worst-case scenarios, and they are the stuff of nightmares. One analysis from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which was leaked, suggested that the coordinated destruction of just 9 key transformers could cause a coast-to-coast blackout that could last for months. Why months? Because these massive transformers aren't sitting on a shelf at Home Depot. They are custom built, weigh hundreds of tons, and can take over a year to manufacture and install. Another study modeled a cyber attack on power generators that could black out 15 states and the District of Columbia, leaving 93 million people in the dark. And this is all before we even talk about the next generation of threats. The smart grid is supposed to make our power usage more efficient. It connects our homes, appliances, and electric vehicles to the grid through the internet. But what happens when a hacker doesn't need to attack a giant power plant? What if they could take over 1 million smart meters or 1 million EV chargers and command them all to draw maximum power at the exact same instant, or to suddenly stop? This could create a demand spike or drop so violent it destabilizes the entire grid, causing cascading failures. Your own smart devices could be weaponized against you. This isn't science fiction. In 2021, a cooperative in Colorado was hit by a cyber attack that completely disabled their internal systems for over a month. They couldn't process payments, couldn't run their billing, couldn't access customer data. The lights stayed on, but the business was crippled. Now imagine that level of disruption, but aimed directly at grid operations. The threats are evolving from simple smash and grab attacks to what experts call advanced persistent threats, or APTs. These are sophisticated, patient attackers, often state-sponsored, who don't just want to break a window. They want to map the entire building, steal the blueprints, copy all the keys, and wait for the moment it will cause the most damage. So, where does this leave us? We have a grid that is being attacked more frequently and more aggressively than ever before, from both the physical and the digital worlds. We have an attack surface that is growing by the day. We have sophisticated, custom-built malware designed specifically to cause blackouts. And we have a documented history of attackers successfully doing just that. Yet, for now, the system holds. It bends, it creaks, it suffers damage, but it hasn't broken on a national scale. The resilience of the grid and the tireless work of thousands of engineers and security professionals are the only things standing between us and darkness. But they are in a race they are struggling to win. The industry's own clearinghouse predicts with medium confidence that the number of serious incidents will continue to rise. We are living in a strange new era where the infrastructure that underpins our entire civilization is a battleground in a war most of us never see. It's a war fought in lines of code, in secret server rooms, and in the shadows at remote substations. The fact that the lights are on is a testament to the defenders, but the rising number of attacks is a stark warning from the attackers. They are getting closer, and they only have to be successful once. Thanks for watching. The security of our most critical infrastructure is a topic that affects every single one of us, but it's rarely discussed. If you found this video informative, share it with someone. The more people who understand the stakes, the better. And let me know in the comments, what part of this threat worries you the most? The physical attacks or the cyber warfare? Subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that run our world. Stay curious.